I'm from Minneapolis, so that's a little unnatural for me, but I'm happy to be here today. And I'm super happy to have this session today, to be able to facilitate this session today. But you will not hear from me for the most part. You'll be hearing from a panel of experts. So without further ado, I'd like to bring them onto the stage. So today I will be joined by Darren Bartlett from Imperial Brands. Hi, Darren. By Kirk Messick from ETS, and Joao Vechio from Vale. So today is all about learning and skills use cases that grow companies. And again, this is not about hearing from me as much as it is from hearing from these three gentlemen about their journeys with Degreed and how they built and how they're seeing results from the use cases that they've each been on in their journey. So today we're going to talk about those use cases. We'll look at the importance of skills to that journey. We will do an activity, so all of you are spread out a bit. We'll join together a bit as we build use cases together. And then we'll have time at the end for you to ask some questions of our panel as well. So Darren, I would love for you to kick us off and tell us about your use case.
Great, thank you. Thank you. As you can tell, I'm not Texan, so I'm not even going to try and do the Joao, because it will just go horribly, horribly wrong. So I'm the capability director for Imperial Brands. You're probably thinking, who are Imperial Brands? We're one of the world's largest tobacco companies, which normally gets boo. So we produce products for Winston, Kool here in the US, and then across Europe, Gauloises, JPS, Lambert and Butler and West. And part of our strategy, our business strategy, is around creating something better. And this is normally where we then stand up proud and talk about vaping. But with recent events, again, you can boo even more probably now about vaping. So we look after blue. So that's kind of the organization. I joined the organization 4 years ago, and my remit at the time was to really look at the way we needed to transform learning. The first thing I'm going to kick off with is probably a slightly controversial statement, bearing in mind why we're all here and why you're all here as well, is around investment in technology alone is not going to solve the problems and the challenges that you have. And I think that's the upfront piece. So when we were talking about the business case and how do we build our approach to transforming the way that we learn across the organization and thinking about those skills we need for the future, it is not just about a technology play. So that's my opening message. It's a contact sport. You need to get people engaged in your journey. You need to get the organization engaged in terms of what does it need for the future. You need to get your leaders bought into their role that they play. And then most importantly, you need to really engage with those individuals who are going to drive those skills. So we heard this morning from Kat and the guys around the skills and the LXP. I must admit, I'm a bit old now. So an LXP, an LMS, a WTF, I'm not too sure what some of them are all about. But what I do know is that you've got to drive that connection with people. So we're going to play a video shortly. But I just wanted to give you a bit of context. So 4 years ago, our organization was completely fragmented. We had no consistent view of the capabilities we had, the skills that we needed. We had no view on spend. We believed it was somewhere in the region of $20 million per annum, but we didn't know. We had duplicated content across the globe, so we operate in 160 territories. We had multiple languages, so we have 10 core languages, and we had 10 versions of the same course. Or probably worse, we had 10 versions of 10 different courses. And from a efficiency point of view, we just weren't hitting the mark. So we were delivering 12,000 hours, learning hours globally, at a cost of about $100 per hour. 4 years on, and we now have our strategy, which is our capability strategy, which is much about how do we attract and accelerate hypo talent as well as developing talent. We've got a view of a consistent leadership framework. We've got consistent skills framework globally. And then last year, we delivered over 85,000 learning hours at a cost of $10 per hour. So how did we kind of hear that shift? You don't really want to hear from me, but let's hear from my team and what they've done over the last 4 years. So with a bit of luck, the video will play.
How do you transform a 230-year-old institution whose products and culture has gone almost unchanged in over a century? By igniting the people capability agenda to create an agile, innovation-hungry market leader. Imperial Brands is a large and complex global organisation built up through acquisition, with people in some 40 countries, each with its own culture and ways of working. Initiatives from our UK head office had not been well adopted across the organisation, often seen as missing the mark and unhelpfully described as coming from Planet Bristol. This was exactly the challenge facing the Imperial Brands learning team. With the business transforming to develop the next generation of products, needing new skills and talent, we had to shift the capability culture. Moving from training to a culture of learning, from fragmented face-to-face delivery for the privileged few, to a learning for all access approach for the always-on global workforce. Changing the e-learning won't work here mindset to using just-in-time learning as a must in day-to-day business. From no consistent view on quality, spend and so value globally to having an efficient central offer with local adaptation and adoption. By understanding the direction the organisation needed to go and the requirements we would need for our people to ensure our future success, we were able to combine our learning aspirations with commercial outcomes that made a difference to our people and so our results. What did we do? We listened to the needs of our senior stakeholders and employees across the organisation. We looked at best practice externally. We activated a campaign to engage our people in a new set of globally consistent actions and behaviours, our leadership expectations, described by our CEO as instrumental in turning our values into results. We engaged our HR community and business leaders to embed and support our change through a regular drumbeat of toolkits, webinars, sharing of best practices and lessons learned. We built from scratch leadership content in 10 languages so leaders could access the knowledge they needed whenever they needed it. We built programs of leadership development so our leaders in any market or language could practice and learn from each other in a safe environment. We created an online matching website for mentors and mentees across all levels of the business to meet, now operating globally. We streamlined our suppliers so we could focus on cost-effective, globally scalable solutions. We've created resources to develop key business initiatives, from lean manufacturing, our Salesforce capability, our next generation products, knowledge and skills, to an online portal bringing our strategy to life. We've built skills for the business to use today and prepare us to meet tomorrow's challenges. Our one-stop shop for learning has been constantly evolving to keep ahead of the business and so the development needs. This hasn't been easy, and we've tested and learned different approaches along the way as we've driven the capability agenda over the last 3 years. Our success can be measured by the global take-up of our learning solutions, the stories of success our people are sharing, the results we're seeing from the leaders who are working together in a different way, and the cost savings and efficiencies we're capturing by our new ways of working. The behavioural changes we see when we review performance with our people one-to-one and their individual successes is incrementally adding value across the organisation to deliver significant global results. Building capability is now seen as integral in the business success, so much so the word capability is at the centre of our business strategy to deliver growth and innovation. But we're not just satisfied with where we are now, we recognise there are challenges still to come. We're implementing short engagement pulse surveys more frequently to keep in touch with the word on the streets from our people. We're implementing a new learner experience platform to engage our always-on learners with a mobile-enabled platform that involves them in sharing their learning in communities. We're passionate about the transformation we've pioneered with our people across Imperial Brands globally and the impact it's having for our business. We know we're creating something better.
So the guy who did the voiceover is even more British than me. So I guess probably the message that we kind of wanted to share with you, and you bring right up to date. So we branded Degreed I Learn for our organisation because learning is a word that we've been really trying to drive. And we wanted to get people to connect and have that emotional connection as I started off with. So we've gone live in June. I think from a product perspective, I think Degreed is certainly the most intuitive product that I've seen in the marketplace. But the piece for us why it's absolutely critical, as you heard on the video and as we've talked about, capability and getting people to take ownership for their capability is at the heart now of our business strategy. And we need people to actually connect with that and make those changes for themselves. And from what we've seen, and our biggest achievement that we've had so far, is the collaboration that we've seen coming through the product. So since we went live in June, we've got about 50% of our connected, enabled audience already regular users of iLearn. They're coming in generally on average 3 to 4 times a month. And we're now seeing people create their own user groups, their own collaboration sites, and actually sharing that learning. And for us, as you can see at the heart of our capability strategy there, it is about learn, grow, and win. And we can only do that with our people actually doing that together. We've started to think about the capabilities that we need, so the skills that we need. And again, I think from what Kat was talking about this morning in terms of that opportunity to leverage the skills and having a better read of those skills that we have today, and how do we get those people into those future capabilities is absolutely critical. And be that from a development lens, which I guess is probably the majority of us in this room, from a learning point of view, or whether that be from an attract, so bringing new talent in, or accelerating key talent through the organization. So for us, this whole idea of a business case and where do you start, if I just go back to my opening message, if you're sitting there trying to build your business case based on tech alone, I would advise you to stop. You need to step back, think about the organization, think about the direction that you're going in, the skills that you need, and start to really drive that emotional connection, and then bring in how tech can help you enable it. And that was our big learn, that was our big win, which has allowed us to achieve what we've done over the last 3 to 4 years. Thank you.
Darren, thank you for sharing that story. Before we leave you, though, you've talked a lot about building capability and identifying the skills you need for the future. How important was that to you, and how did you go about identifying those skills?
It's absolutely critical. As I said, I think as a learning professional and somebody who's passionate about learning, you see products out in the marketplace, and not just Degreed, there are other products obviously available as well, and you can get excited about that, but it's just tech. It doesn't make a difference fundamentally unless you tie it into what are you trying to do. So my first year in the organization, I literally just racked up air miles spending time with the local teams in the local markets to understand where they were, the challenges they face, what the future business is going to hold. So like all of the tobacco players, we are faced with, our industry is changing completely. So I think probably outside of pharma, well, petrochem probably, and then you see the rise of sort of electric cars. Very few sectors are going through such a change. So what we knew is almost irrelevant. The last innovation in tobacco was the introduction of the filter about 80 years ago. Now, you look at next generation products, those skills are absolutely critical. So digital developers, brand marketing, being able to go out and source those new skills and develop them is absolutely critical. And for us, it was having that conversation with our executive team around, let's look at 3, 5, 10 years out, what do we need? How do we then build that capability internally? And then you get to the solutions of, right, how tactically can we make that happen? Which is why I say I think in the past I've probably started with where it's going to cost this and this is the return, and it's never going to fly. You have to start with what the organization needs.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing your story. We look forward to hearing some more as we get to the audience portion as well. But I'd like to shift to Kirk to tell us about your approach to defining your strategy.
Sure, thank you, Kristi. My name's Kirk Messick. I work for ETS. Is that acronym familiar to anyone? Educational Testing Service. Thank you, Brenda. My new friend, Brenda. We write assessments. Ever take the SAT or the AP or the GRE or the Praxis test, the TOEFL or TOEIC? That's us. I'm going to change my shirt later on so you don't recognize me because you might have a story that you want to come back on me on. I'm in charge of the learning at ETS. My story, I've been with Degreed for almost 3 years. Kristi was in a different role. Our relationship goes back that far. She helped me with my launch. Now she's a big shot. But then Leslie Lund, who is a part of our the technology, was wonderful. So I want to tell you my short story of why degree was my selection, and I want to talk a little bit about skills. We're at the phase where skill is something that's really important to us in the way of implementing degree into helping what we want to do with an ETS. When I was looking for a new system, I didn't want it to be an LMS. I wanted to something, I was looking for a white whale, the holy grail. I was looking for a system that could measure informal learning. The things that people were viewing on their own, or the videos, or the things they were listening to, iPods, or the conferences they were going to, the conversations, or the experiences. LMSs couldn't do that. When I found Degreed, and I can't remember the moment I found it, but I do remember my first conversation with Steve Cornell, and I think Steve may be in the room, I couldn't believe what I found. I made it so, I changed my learning strategy for the organization, so this platform was the only way that I could implement my learning strategy. And it was because it was focused on self-paced learning. None of this going to e-learning, going to a class. It was what are people learning, and I wanted the information of where they were going, what they were looking at, what interests them. That was data that was really important to me. So that's why I selected Degree. A little bit about skills, though. When Chris was mentioning that where are you in the phase with that curve, I kept raising my hand because I was at all three phases. But that last phase of now we're trying to implement skills and really identify what they're associated with the roles are. Because it was really important to me for us to identify, okay, what are the roles? And this is where I am right now. But I don't want you to think that I'm really far down the road. I'm about 10% of my organization. And if I was telling you the truth, it would probably be closer to 5%. Because it really takes time. It takes lots of conversations to do this work. Within my organization, everyone can do their self-reporting of what they think the skill is. And I also have skill review for every employee. And many people are doing that. But I've not connected to the roles. And that's where I am right now. So I have two internal clients. One's the IT division. And we know what IT does. But the other division, you probably have seen some interest in, they're the assessment development folks. They're the folks that write the items. They're the ones that ruined that Saturday morning experience when you were doing SAT, right? And you're probably saying, well, those people certainly need to develop their skills because some of those questions they came up certainly kind of blew my mind. When it comes to the IT, I've been working with them for about a year. So we're further along with that. So we've identified the roles, and we need to identify what are the skills for that role. And then the real fun conversation is what is the level that's needed for that skill, for that role. And then the last piece is attach that learning to help develop that skill. So we're doing pretty well there. Some things have delayed things, some business things got in the way. But the assessment development team, I'm literally at the very beginning of that. We're only a few months into me helping them, and our first pilot is to develop the test developers, accelerate their ability to write good test items. You think, well, anyone can write test items, right? And many of us might have been teachers at one time. But the consensus in my organization, by those that do it, says it takes about a year to become a good test item writer. According to leadership, they should say it takes about 3 months. So my challenge is to try to get that closer to 3 months than it is to a year. But after I get that done, I've already introduced that we're going to move to skills. What are the skills that are needed for a test developer? And then have that conversation about the levels. What I want to share with you about those conversations is you need to make sure you have the right people in the room to make those decisions, and you need to make sure you have the diverse crowd, the people that have the different perspectives, people that are doing it now versus the people that might have done it before they got into that leadership role. It's very interesting. You really have no idea where that conversation is going to go. So I hope that you get there soon. And the last thing I want to point out is the 8-point rubric, that Lumina Foundation, which does similar work to my company, did with Degreed. And I think they took about 5 years to come up with this metric, the rubric. It's a game changer. Chris mentioned it earlier. It's the language of learning, of skills. Because before now, we talk about badges. Badges, what value does a badge have? Who issued it? Certifications, even a lot of certifications. What does that really demonstrate that person can do? We need to value what people know and what they can do, and I think we're a lot closer than we've ever been. Even what degree did you, what college did you go to? Now, we all make assumptions about colleges, but it really doesn't measure, no. This rubric gets us there closer than we've ever been before. Now, my organization writes rubrics. Anyone outside my organization that wrote a rubric is going to be challenged by my internal people. No one can challenge this rubric because it's solid. Hopefully you get there soon that you can start implementing your skills in your organization. I'm going to show you a brief video about my launch video. I just saw this recently. I gave it to Kristi a number of weeks ago. I hadn't seen it in a couple years. I'm a little embarrassed by it now. But hopefully you'll see what and with Kristi's help and all the degrees, they're all behind you in your launch. They give you communication plans. They want you to be successful. And that helped inspire what you're about to see. So if we could show that.
Hi, I'm Kirk Messick, Senior Director in the Chief Learning Officer Group at SWS. Over the past year, we've conducted focus groups all across ETS to learn what ETSers think about learning and employee development at ETS. We've heard three main challenges from you. The first is time. You simply don't have time for formal learning. The second is resources. I'm not quite sure what resources are available or where to go look. And the third is skills and competencies. You're not quite sure what competencies you need to be developed to be successful here at ETS. Well, we listened to your feedback, and as a result, I'm excited to tell you about a brand new learning portal that we're launching. It's called Degreed, and here's what it does. Degreed is an intelligent learning platform. This means that over time it learns what your needs and interests are and refines your search results. The system curates the resources that matter most to you. With nearly 3 million learning resources from 1,300 providers, Degreed will zero in on the learning materials most suited for your professional and personal interests. To help you get started, we've created a number of learning pathways for critical ETS competencies. Pathways are a collection of curated resources on a specific topic. Now, the initial pathways we've created are giving feedback, receiving feedback, end-to-end ETS understanding, and having difficult conversations. And many more pathways are currently being developed. Degreed will also keep track of everything you've learned. So that includes the important learning that you're learning on the job and outside a formal classroom or a setting. You can capture all your professional, academic, and informal learning experiences together in one lifelong learning transcript that can follow you even if you leave ETS. And oh yeah, you can access Degreed anywhere, anytime, and from any device. We are thrilled to launch Degreed to ETS employees, and I encourage you to take advantage of this great resource. Log on from ETS Inside, and remember that the more you use Degreed, the more it'll learn about your interests. So get started, and make sure you let us know how you're doing. Email us at lms@ets.org. Bring your learning into focus. Now, go log on.
I love it.
These were a hit, by the way. Nice. I recommend all of you do this. Get the Billie Holiday look and go with it.
They're great. I remember those glasses. I have those glasses from our time together. So you have been with us for a while. You've been on the journey throughout the stages. Tell us how you started, but more importantly, how you built the momentum to be where you are today with skills.
The platform kind of encourages people to come back to it. So if you have the value of the learning in it, and you have the topics and the variety of medium, either articles and videos and other things, and I do have an LMS attached to the back, so I do have classes and e-learnings that can be found. Being able to learn more about you was a big selling point or a big interest. So the more you come back to, the more it knows about you and brings back recommended learning. The engagement of the survey, engagement of the system and the intuitiveness and kind of draws you in. And you start popping around and seeing what other people are doing.
Great. Great. Kirk, thank you for sharing your story. Again, we will look forward to hearing more as we have our audience participation. But Joao, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share your story with us as well.
Thank you, Kristi. Well, I think we've got a video right now, isn't it? Right?
We can show you.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with a video that tells a little bit about our story. This video will show you where we came from. There is a corporate university at Vale that's been there for 15 years or so. And actually, this is the 16th year of existence of it. And you might see from my accent that I'm not Texan or American. I'm Brazilian. And it's really exciting to be here. Just wanted to give you the cue to bring up the video that's going to tell a little bit about what we were thinking when we developed this experience. Thanks. So this was the manifesto from our corporate university released last year. And we were telling people that we wanted to have solutions for learning that were innovative, digital, and simple. And that's because Vale is a mining company. Our business is in iron ore. We export iron ore for all over the world. We're the biggest exporters of iron ore for China and some other countries. We are today in 20 countries or more. I don't remember the number right in my head right now. But the complexity of our structure is that we have people in our business offices, in other countries, speaking several languages. We have people under the mines, like taking nickel from underground mines. We have people who are in railways. We have people all over the place, literally 75,000 employees all over the globe, 55,000 in Brazil, 10 or 12,000. I have some friends from Canada here. Are they? Oh, sorry, there. Oh. She's over there. So I have some friends from Canada here too. So 10,000 in Canada and around 20 other thousands in the rest of the world. And it's really hard to take content for those people. And that's the reason we have to be simple, because they all have to explore the same content. We have to be innovative, because since they are under the mines, we need to, and over the mines and in the cars, in the railways, taking the iron ore from a place to another, taking to ships and taking to places that it's going to be processed and sent to our clients. They have to get our content. And the content is about compliance. The content is about engineering. The content is about maintenance. The content is about everything they need. And they have to learn at that moment. And it has to happen whenever they want. I mean, the content has to be available. And that's the reason I have the first part here. Just wanted to show you what the business was thinking when we we made it up. I mean, wasn't made it up. This was something that we were told. And the first one here is that we had, to accelerate employee access to our business content. This was the first part, that we have so much going on and we needed to give them access to everything. We also had to foster network learning. We had people who were retiring. It's a 70-something-year-old company. So we had places all over the globe that was losing people, losing talent, losing skills for other companies or for their retirement lives, that they want to do something else, which wasn't to actually continue to work for Vale. They wanted to take their time to rest and to enjoy their families and develop other skills such as fishing, I don't know, hunting, some things like that that they were really into. And then to keep in pace with changes in the world. I mean, we are a mining company, and we had to keep pace with the world changes and be brought to the present, because we are living in a processing company that is an ancient sort of work, and we need to be in the present. It's not even looking at the future or doing what's next, it's doing what's going on right now. And for our learners, hopefully it's going to be showing up there. Okay, so and we have our learners. So this is what the business was telling me when I came in April. So I'm at Vale since April. This is important because when I came here, the manifesto was already there, and this is what I created over what was there. Our learners, when I started to look around what we had there, we had people who were connected. They were all the time connected to all sorts of technologies. They have their watches, they have their cell phones, they have their computers at their homes. I mean, when you're under a mine, you cannot take any of these. So how can I foster content for those people? Pretty challenging, but we had to keep it simple. We're planning to have places where they're going. Oh, another thing that's really important. Our global release for people was last week. So I think we have different maturity level of companies here for you to take a look of what's going on. So we have 6 months or so of planning and piloting, and then we are right now starting to spread our word to the world. So they are digital, they are hyper-connected, they have all the devices that they can access, we know that they have, and they are bringing their own devices to the workplace, and they are using it all the time to share content between their colleagues. And this content that they were sharing was not being used by us, that was staying with them for themselves, and they were not using it all the time. So every time they needed more content, they would build it again, and again, and again, and again, all times. So this is a maintenance that I'm doing in this railway right now. If I have to do it tomorrow, I'm going to film it, and then spread it to a few colleagues. If I'm going to do it tomorrow again, I'm not going to find this video anywhere. This is going to be lost. So in Brazil, we use WhatsApp, and we can do WhatsApp to everyone. It's like iMessage, but for several tons of people at the same time. And we send that video using WhatsApp, and that video will be lost forever. We're not keeping track of that. And now with the grid, we can do that. So I can just search for it. I don't have to record it again. They are distracted and impatient. So all the time that they have their watches calling them, their cell phones ringing, their computers and emails and agendas all the time, they're getting impatient because there is so much going on, and they're doing all the things all the time. They're so busy. We have to be, again, simple. And they're hyper-stimulated. Just as probably I am, I tend to speak too fast. I try to do it slower when I perceive that this is going on. But I mean, I'm happy that we have so many English speakers here, and you try to understand what I say most of the time. When I have folks with me, it's a little bit harder. But we are hyper-stimulated. This is taken. I mean, this is something that we cannot undo anymore. This is going on. So again, digital, simple, and innovative, to make this part, the learning part of these people, a little bit more important than all the other stimuli that this person receives. For that's what we were seeing, I have the project pillars, which are, they have to be autonomy, and they have to have the autonomy. They have to be autonomous. They have to have the autonomy to learn and to self-drive themselves throughout their learning paths. Learning paths that have to be built from us, for them, until a certain point when they start to build their own. So for them to be autonomous and self-drive themselves, have to content and to author content for them to make it easy for them to take this journey and start going through it. We have to have the learner-centered experience. They have to go there and feel that they were in your thoughts when you were building content for them, or anybody who is building content for them. And we have to have this content available wherever and whenever it's needed. When I talk to my Portuguese leaders, to my Brazilian leaders in Brazil, I tell them that we are trying to reposition, literally, learning. I'm getting everything I need from here, this specific moment, and taking it to the moment that it's needed. So this is a class that I'm taking here, and I'm going to talk about my own experience. So I'm traveling. When I get back to work, I'm going to have to do my expense report, which is really boring. And I have to take the training all the time that I'm doing my expense report. And this is my experience again, okay? I have to do that. And if that training was only in class, I would never be able to do my expense report. But I have an online training that I can take anytime I want. But this is in my LMS. So think that I have this expense report training in the grid. It's not there yet. In a pathway. And I can just type my question to it. I don't have to watch that 1-hour video again. It would make my life way simpler. So this is what I've been told. I've been talking to my procurement leaders, so for them to start to look a little bit more on that part, because I need to take that learning piece that is here and reposition it wherever it's needed for me to use whenever I need. And it needs to be available. And I'm talking about my personal corporate sort of office experience, but think about my mining people who are under the ground. They need to use that content. They need to do maintenance in their rail carts. They need to get the maintenance, the safety information that they need at all times. And this is one of the things that we have there, content that is relevant, that is selected, that is curated for them. And at some point, they just started to create their own content. So I'm telling you guys that we started to use the grid corporatively, like in the world, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, since 1st of October. It means that we already have engineering content, we have safety content, we have compliance content for them to see what's possible and for them to start to build their own content there. And we gave them the opportunity to do whatever they wanted to do with the tool and let the community decide what's going to be best for them. I can teach them how to think. I can teach them how to take decisions, but I don't want to control them. I don't think I have the words here, but the slogan, and this is the final words, the slogan for our project in Brazil was, the first one was, learning is learning is a journey, not a destination. And we're like, oh, this is not exactly what we're trying to say. And then we change. It was Vale Digital, it's the name of the system in Brazil. Vale Digital, you in control. But we didn't want to tell people that they were in control of anything. They were part of something that's all of ours. I mean, it's of all of us. And we ended up with Vale Digital, freedom to learn your own way. And we're letting you, this is the part that we tell people that they have the freedom to actually take the skills they need and start to learn their own way, the way that they need, the way that the business needs, and we are just driving them to make the right decisions during the learning. Thank you.
Joao, thank you for that, and congratulations on your launch. It is 1 week.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
It's so exciting.
Yes, absolutely. So as you think about 1 week in, but importantly, the planning that you did previously, how are you already thinking about and incorporating skills into the conversation?
Well, this is actually a very easy answer to give because they have been asking me that. And when I talk to business leaders, they're already asking me, how can we keep the knowledge that we already have? And when I ask them, what do you mean with knowledge? They're like, what? I mean, they say, the skills that we have today and we are losing. So it's really easy to bring to the table the conversation about skills. We are losing, in a way to say, people who are retiring, we're losing skills. So I have this site in São Luís, Brazil, where we have this big port. And we have people, it's a 32-year site, if I'm not wrong. It means that I have people there who have been working for 30 years. And it means that these people are retiring. Because in Brazil, you work for 30 years, and you just want to retire. Hopefully, it happens in other places too. And we're losing those skills. And they have been asking us, what do we do? And now I have the answer. We can measure we can tell the business what exactly are the skills that you are losing and start to build that within the platform, within Vale Digital.
That's great. That is great.
Thank you.
So thank you all for sharing your stories. I think it's been incredibly valuable for us. But it's time for each of you to think about building your story as well. So as I look out at the audience, if you are at a table and you see some paper in front of you, you're in a great spot. If you do not see paper in front of you, you need to move to a table where there is some. Because we'll be doing an activity using that paper in collaboration with your colleagues. I'm not seeing a lot of movement yet. Go ahead and shift to a place where you have access to one of those worksheets. So as you're adjusting and introducing yourself to your new table mates, which I love, what I'd love for you to do, and what we'll take some time to do over the next 10 or 15 minutes, is to start building your own case, your own learning and skills use case. And so most of you are future clients. When you become a client, this is one of the first activities that my team does with you to really connect what we will do along a map. We call it the degreed value map that really starts with the business environment, the current business challenges that your company, your organization, your industry are facing, driven down to the business initiatives that your executive team has put in place, your leadership team is supporting to solve those business challenges. Those first two columns are really important, and notice that the word learning does not exist there. We don't start talking about learning goals until we really understand the business challenges and the initiatives that support them. And at that point, we can look at how L&D or how learning will help to support those initiatives through learning goals. And then finally, we'll map out measures of success for the business and how Degreed can contribute to those measures of success as well. So I know that you're in this room. I know that in 10 minutes you won't be able to establish a full strategy for Degreed, but I'd like you to make some notes. Hearing what you heard from these use cases today, using the power of your tables, I'd love for you to start sketching out what your business case looks like. I will caution you, it's probably easy to fill up at least two of those columns, right? The learning goals and the measures of success for learning. I'd encourage you to skip those. You know those, right? Focus today on the current business challenge and the business initiatives that support them, because that's really what will drive and pull the thread all the way through. So for the next 10 minutes within your tables and individually, I'd love for you to start to map out your own use cases. We'll check back in about 10 minutes. I am really eager to hear the progress you've made. So I really would love to hear a couple of the stories. As you've worked through this, we've got some mics that we can run around the room. Deb and Mark are ready and willing to bring the mic to any of you who would love to share your story and the work that you've done over the last 10 minutes with the rest of the group. So who would like to be a volunteer?
Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph. I work for Cisco Systems. We've been using Degreed for the past 2.5 years, I believe more than that. We had great experience, Degreed going so far. And we've been discussing at the table here the business challenges. So one of the challenge that I was discussing with the team here is we do have several LMSs today. Right, so some come from acquisitions, because we do a lot of acquisitions. So when I say LMS, it's not just the codes, the user, but it is beyond how do you set up, administer these courses, and how do you set up the registrations for this, how do you do the chargebacks for this, and how do you do the resource management for this. Some of this, it could be an ILTs where there could be some resources that could be needed. So how do you do all of this management? So each LMS brings a different perspective Now, on top of it, we are exposing these courses through Degreed. So in terms of the cost, in terms of the experience, in terms of the integrations that we need to build, I see that's the biggest challenge for us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And hopefully you got some great tips from your table on how to maybe resolve those challenges as well. Thank you. Who else would like to share? Got a volunteer up here.
So one of our major challenges, so several of us here at this table work for Dell. We also have representatives from Ford Motor Company as well, is gauging the effectiveness of our training. So right now we can measure completeness, or the completion rate, but we don't necessarily see how the, if you will, the learning health of the individual is being tracked. So how are they able to apply what they've learned? And from a management perspective, how do we measure that we're giving them the right material other than just, they've been able to complete it and pass a course?
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, I'm Diego. I'm with Metalsa. And this is more, we just finished introductions here, so we didn't actually get into a lot of it, but I was reading the first question here. I recently had the chance to talk with Josh Bersin, which I think a lot of people know here, but he mentioned something in our conversation saying that sometimes we are doing the wrong questions because learning is not sexy. He said, when you talk about learning, you're always talking about, and you think it's very sexy, but for business leaders, it might not. So, but he said, if you go and have the conversations, the deep conversations about, so what are your challenges now? What are you supposed to achieve this year? How success looks like? And he said something that I think it's a breath of fresh air. Let's say, I guarantee you 100% that their success will be linked to a learning strategy in some way. I mean, they might not be able to verbalize it like that, but you need to abstract what they are saying to you about about that. And he said, for sure, there is an L&D component of that. They need people to learn faster. So I think sometimes we just are very focused on ourselves, our own, our gut. But if we ask what challenges they have, for sure they have a learning challenge over there. So I don't think any business challenge that it's actually a challenge. I think any business challenge should be linked in a way to a learning strategy. The thing is that we sometimes don't see that. So thinking about the first question, I think it's a lot of our work to abstract that or to make an abstraction of what they say. So I'm sorry we didn't do the exercise itself, but it's a reflection on the first column.
Well, I appreciate the honesty, and thank you for the contribution as well. Let's take one more.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I work with HP, and I'm sitting here at a table with several different companies. So I just joined them kind of late in their conversation, and we came up with a lot of the like things. I had a list already about skills not being incorporated in our learning. It's a big goal of ours to become more learning-centric and around talent management and bring it all together. That whole holy grail of talent and learning and all about the person in the middle. So that's a challenge right now. Also, we have teams and organizations that create their own training, and they don't always use our systems because they don't like them. So it's hard to motivate them if we can't get them in our systems for analyzing and gathering of the data. And we also have our global issues of all the different languages, and if it's in a different language, is it the same kind of training? Did they adjust it too much? Are they still getting what they need? Trying to get it all together in all the languages we need. And we just have too many resources. People can go anywhere they want on YouTube to find stuff, and then they share that instead of going to our LMS or even our LXP at this point. So, anybody else at the table? Just those were our challenges and didn't get much further into the sheet.
That's okay. Thank you for the honesty as well. So thank you to everyone who shared your stories. Thank you for the work you did in your table groups. Hopefully you will take this worksheet back with you and have conversations within your organization to really map out what use cases will be the most effective for you. You know, I think we get a lot of great feedback from our customers, from our partners. Really, I think, hopefully you've heard today from the gentleman on stage with me, really we appreciate when we can see your success. And so with that, we have time for a couple of questions. So I would love to hear what questions you have for our expert panel.
Hi, this one's for Darren. Darren, you mentioned your mentor match. I'd like to know a little bit about it and if you've integrated it with Degreed and how.
So Mental Match is basically, we built a dating website. So it's a matching platform that's based on the same algorithms as dating websites. And it was there to, again, encourage that collaboration and get people to be thinking about the skills of the future. So we've got some cool matches. We've got a shift supervisor in our factory in the Dominican Republic, mentoring a sales leader in Russia, which is quite bizarre. But again, it's kind of that piece of looking to what the organization needed, and we built that tech. It's not currently linked into Degreed. And it was funny, actually, we were talking about this last night over dinner around how can we take the information and the insight from Mental Match and the skills and areas that people are looking for and align that also with where people have rated themselves from a degree point of view. So it's not integrated yet, but we are certainly looking at how we can correlate the data between the two and what does that then mean. And I have no idea what that will mean yet, but I think it's that data and insight piece that I think Kirk was talking about in terms of that you can really get out of Degreed is going to be really powerful.
Hi, this is for Kirk. You mentioned an LMS. What LMS do you use, and did you find any issues or challenges with your integration and how it works with Degreed?
The LMS is Docebo, spelled Docebo, but Docebo, Italian company. The reason I went with them was because I didn't have to buy a license for every user. I had to meet a maximum or minimum, let me look at that way, per month. The experience integrating it, you got Kristi working with you and Leslie Lunn in the IT side of it. There were some challenges. There was some of the early days of integrating LMS. I think the APIs might be even stronger now. But in the end, my request to Kristi was the system needs to be flawless, and it was at launch. So it worked very well. And if anyone needs to contact me on anything, please use this email that's showing right now.
Hi. Kirk, I think it was you that said something about measuring informal learning. And I'd like to pose this question to everybody, actually.
I'll sit down,
what are you
Brenda.
doing?
That's my new friend, by the way. We just met today.
What are you doing to measure participation? How are you looking at that?
After a week, how much participation do we have?
It really depends on the communication. It's not, I mean, we did the launch last week, and we had like a global event where we were having David Blake speaking to our public. He was talking about the skills that we need to develop for the future. He was talking about the crisis that we might be going through really recently, really quickly, and it's growing. The answer is it's growing, and the other one is it really depends on the communication that you do with your audience. Communication is key. So is engagement with your HR business partners and the way that they talk to their clients, and the responsibility that these leaders who are talking to these HR business partners on their teams development. This has been really key for us. We have around 20,000 people subscribed in the system, but using it today around 10% or so. And it's been growing.
And with that, I know you asked of everybody. I would encourage you to find Kirk and Darren and Joao at lunch, which is where we're headed to next.